I guess if you'd have been there, it'd have been worse than what it was on TV.
If you go back to Bristol, the old veterans took care of that track where they had to manage the tires and everything, and look at the youth movement in yesterday's race where the young kids
a different crowd.
different crowd.
The only time he ran fast was down pit road, and they called him. I don't know what kind of trouble they had, but it was really bad. That track does not lend itself to a good cup race. The track's too long. If they shorten it up a little bit, it might be a little bit better. But, like you say, we get to go back to Richmond. At least if you're sitting in the grandstand, you'll be able to see all the cars. All right, we're back again, man.
Here in the Petty Museum in Level Cross, and boy, we couldn't have helped nothing in Texas, I don't guess. But
we were sitting there just watching on TV, and I guess if you'd have been there, it'd have been worse than what it was on TV. Because, the only exciting thing I think that the TV talked about was the 20 trying to catch up with the 24 there at last. And if you'd been sitting there watching it in person, you wouldn't have known they was catching up.
Well, no, and even watching it on television, the 24 was managing his speed and his distance that he had, But,
oh, yeah.
And
he was really... He could probably run a little bit quicker if he'd ever got up there,
But one thing, I guess, that happened, Richard, if you go back to Bristol, the old veterans took care of that track where they had to manage the tires and everything, and look at the youth movement in yesterday's race where the
completely different,
the young kids
a different crowd,
different crowd. I don't know,
but I tell you, the 43 got off to a terrible start. I think he qualified dead last, and I guess he ran there all day. The only time he ran fast was down pit road, and they called him. So I don't know what kind of trouble they had, but it was really bad. The 42, he'd run good from time to time, but I think they wasn't getting the rear wheels to the ground. They just had a terrible weekend for sure.
Yeah, just maybe looking at
maybe we can do a little bit better at Richmond.
Well, it's still a very tricky track at Richmond, and it used to, we was up there years ago when it was dirt, and then they paved what they had, and now they've changed the configuration of it, and and for us old folks, it starts at 7:00, bud.
But getting back to the Texas deal, that track does not lend itself to a good cup race for some reason. I think it's the track's too long. If they shorten it up a little bit, it might be a little bit better. But from my standpoint, it wasn't a race. It was just a run. It'd been just about as exciting to watch them practice as it was to watch the race. So there's no way people could stay at the racetrack and keep up with who was where or anything like that. And so, and I see they're going to try it again next year. They're going to run back out there again next year. So maybe we can do a little bit better next time.
Well, they certainly use a lot of paint to make the place pretty. Now, it's a neat-looking place.
It is really a nice place.
But, Richard,
it's a nice place to have a racetrack.
If you took probably the first 4 out of it down through 20th, they were racing pretty hard all back in. But, I don't know where the fans could have sat and watched that or not, or concentrated on what was going on there. But television had us watching the leaders.
Yeah, I think it takes a different crowd to watch a road race than it does to watch a regular NASCAR race. And I think that's proven out that, these guys, a lot of the road race people, they go for the party part. You see them all sitting around on the banks and sitting there eating, running around. So I think it's a happening more than a race.
Yeah, no matter what. But, last week we said they'd probably be a different winner. Well, we missed that too. So I'm not sure we didn't miss it much as the cars did.
The 20 car had a good strategy. The deal that just didn't work out for him because I think right before I think he was leading the race, and I think he slowed down the last 2 or 3 laps too much before he made his pit stop. In doing that, he got 9 or 10 seconds behind, and he caught them all up by 1 second in the last run. But if it ever had a caution or something, it would have been a different deal. But I'm like you. I think the 24 was kind of pacing itself because he was really good all day long, and so really wind up probably the best car really wound up winning the race.
I'm not sure I'm in favor of stage racing and flagging anywhere, but because I guess I'm too old school.
To me, after I watch the race and get to think about it, it don't score very high on my radar as far as being a good race. But like you say, we get to go back to Richmond. at least if you're sitting in the grandstand, you'll be able to see all the cars. So that might make it more interesting.
Yeah, 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes around the racetrack. That's a long time.
That's a long time,
to be. And then you sit there and wait. You wait and say, "Okay, I'm pulling for John Doe, and is he gonna make it back?" Which about everybody finished, I guess. But I don't know. We're gonna drive to Richmond, I guess, Sunday morning.
Yeah,
and
we'll go up and check on Richmond and see if we can't do a little bit better. But maybe we can come off the truck a little bit better than what we did in Texas.
Well, we certainly need to. See you next week.
We didn't have much this time. There wasn't nothing to talk about. Well, really, we didn't have road race cars. They wasn't set up for that. It's one of those kind of deals where we run stiffer springs on the right side and softer springs on the left side for a regular racetrack. We just changed springs, put them on the other side, because most of the races were to the right. So basically, you run the same car everywhere you run.
Our big race years ago was Riverside, first race of the season, and I don't know, probably the first 6 or 7 races. I don't know how many, but Richard certainly tore the transmission out, and it was just stock transmission. And finally, we got race transmissions for road courses, and we won some races out there.
When they got all 4 wheels in the green or red or whatever, but that just kept the people from making shorten up the racetrack, and that's why they done it. And they had cameras on all those corners, so in doing that, they knew if anybody, it automatically told, hey, this car is off the racetrack. And I think the 42 got caught one time. I think he took a shortcut, but I don't see it. It looks to me like it when they throw the green flag and you got to make it around the track. No matter how you get there, it looks to me like even if you run in the dirt, it'd be okay.
Yeah, on that all green and all 4 wheels in the green, it showed the 9 car when he made his deal, but he just got so sideways.
No, he was just trying to save the car.
He just saved the car, and it caught him over there. So I didn't agree with that, but it's ever what makes it work.
I think they ought to do away with stage points altogether myself, because sometimes you have a guy running 4th or 5th gets more points than the guy that wins the race, and that's not right. Any other sport, no matter how much you lead the ball game, it's who winds up with the most points when it's over. And I think NASCAR needs to do the same thing.
I like throwing the green flag and the first one back to the checkers the winner, and then scoring from there on down. That's the way I see it, but that was old school years ago.